74th out of 77 shows on television. That's where Cheers landed after its debut season in 1982, about as close to cancellation as a show can sit without actually dying. 11 years and 275 episodes later, 93 million people watched the finale. Cheers is far from the only 80s sitcom that had no business lasting as long as it did, and today we're counting down 11 of them. From the nearly canceled, to the publicly boycotted, to the one that got axed by its own network and came back from the dead in syndication. Some of these shows survive because of a breakout character nobody planned for, and some survive because a national controversy backfired in the best possible way. If you love nostalgia, you're in the right place, so hit that subscribe button and drop a like before we get rolling. Number 11, Coach. Most people don't realize that Coach never got a proper fall premiere or a big marketing campaign. ABC slotted it in during February of 1989 as a mid-season replacement, which is network television's polite way of saying they needed to fill a hole in the schedule. 13 episodes were all the network ordered. Craig T. Nelson starred as Hayden Fox, a college football coach loosely inspired by real-life Iowa coach Hayden Fry. And the whole concept amounted to a lovable, stubborn guy navigating football, family, and his own ego. Nothing about that screamed long-term hit on paper, but those 13 throwaway episodes performed well enough for ABC to bring the show back for a full fall season, and that first full year landed at number 18 in the Nielsen ratings. 9 seasons and 200 episodes followed from there, with Nelson winning the lead actor Emmy in 1992, and the writers even reinvented the show toward the end by moving Hayden from college ball to a fictional NFL expansion team called the Orlando Breakers. A mid-season filler that nobody expected to outlast spring ran for close to a decade. NBC ordered 13 episodes of a revival with Nelson attached in 2015, but pulled the plug over creative concerns before it ever reached the air. Number 10, Growing Pains. Growing Pains cracked the top 10 in its very first season after premiering on September 24, 1985, serving as ABC's direct answer to The Cosby Show and Family Ties. Alan Thicke played psychiatrist dad Jason Seaver, who works from home while his wife Maggie returns to journalism, and their son Mike, played by Kirk Cameron, turned into a teen heartthrob almost overnight. What earns the show a spot on this list is everything it endured to stay alive past its peak. Ratings sagged by season 6, and that's when producers pulled a move that would become a Hollywood footnote, casting a 16-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio as a homeless teen taken in by the Seavers as a play to attract younger viewers. Behind the cameras, Kirk Cameron's religious conversion during the show's run stirred real friction with the cast and crew, something Cameron himself later acknowledged with regret. ABC eventually relocated it from its Wednesday home to the Saturday night graveyard for the final season, pairing it alongside Who's the Boss for a shared farewell. Both shows aired their last episodes on the same night, April 25, 1992, and Growing Pains wrapped with 7 seasons and 166 episodes after fighting through its entire back half. Number 9, Who's the Boss? Before Who's the Boss ever reached audiences, the trouble had already started. The pilot wrapped in November of 1983, but ABC shelved it for roughly 10 months over creative differences. And during that delay, star Tony Danza got arrested for a bar fight and ended up doing community service. Not exactly the smooth launch any network dreams about. Once the show finally hit the air on September 20th, 1984, audiences grabbed onto the premise immediately. An ex-baseball player becoming a live-in housekeeper for a female ad executive, flipping traditional gender roles in a way that felt fresh. More than 30 million viewers tuned in at its peak, and it held a spot in the top 10 from 1985 through 1989. The turbulence behind the scenes never really settled down, though. Danza staged a 2-week walkout at the start of the 89-90 season, serious enough that the crew printed "I Survived Week 6" t-shirts to market. One of the show's most well-known creative battles centered on ABC and the producers refusing to let Tony and Angela get married, reportedly out of fear that it would hurt the show's syndication value. That tug-of-war between the love story fans wanted and the business decision the network protected defined the later years of the run. 8 seasons and 196 episodes came out of all that chaos, and a sequel with Danza and Alyssa Milano landed at Amazon Freevee in 2020, but the streamer passed on it in October of 2024. Number 8. The Golden Girls. The Golden Girls scored as a hit right from its premiere, which raises the fair question of why it belongs on a list about unlikely survivors. The answer sits in what happened before the cameras ever rolled. When creator Susan Harris pitched a show about 4 women in their 60s sharing a house in Miami, the response from NBC boiled down to a flat rejection, telling her to rewrite it because nobody wanted to watch 4 old women on television. Harris pushed ahead anyway, and the premiere on September 14, 1985 pulled a 25 rating with a 43 share, around 21.5 million homes, which made it the highest-rated premiere in 2 years. That first week, it finished number 1, and it closed the 1985-86 season at number 7 overall. The original pilot had even included a gay houseboy character named Coco, played by Charles Levin, who got quietly dropped after producers saw how powerfully the audience responded to Estelle Getty's Sophia. 7 seasons, 180 episodes, and a finale that pulled an estimated 27.2 million viewers later. Every skeptic had been proven wrong. Disney has reported that the series crossed 1 billion streaming hours globally on Disney Plus and Hulu, and ABC aired a 40th anniversary special on November 11, 2025, called The Golden Girls, 40 Years of Laughter and Friendship, featuring creator Susan Harris and executive producer Tony Thomas. Not a bad legacy for a show that the network itself tried to kill in the pitch room. Number 7. Designing Women. Designing Women landed on CBS on September 29, 1986, and for its opening stretch, everything appeared stable. Creator Linda Bloodworth Thomason had built a sharp ensemble comedy about 4 Southern women and 1 man running an interior design firm in Atlanta, which carved out a comfortable early audience. That changed when CBS started shuffling the show around the schedule, bouncing it from Mondays to Sundays to Thursdays, and the ratings cratered under all that instability. The network stuck it on hiatus and prepared to cancel it outright. What rescued it was something networks almost never encounter. Fans organized a letter-writing campaign that pressured CBS into bringing the show back to its original Monday slot, where ratings stabilized and climbed into the top 20. Paired with Murphy Brown, it became a dependable Monday night performer for CBS through the early 90s. Cast upheaval tested the show's durability too, with Delta Burke and Gene Smart both departing after season 5. Replacements including Judith Ivey couldn't stop the eventual decline, and when CBS relocated the show to Fridays in the fall of 1992, the damage proved fatal as the ratings collapsed. 7 seasons and 163 episodes marked the full run. A reunion special aired on Lifetime in July of 2003, and as of September 2025, original broadcast versions stream on Hulu in 4K. Number 6. Charles in Charge. If any show on this list genuinely earned a Back from the Dead label, Charles in Charge owns it. Created by Michael Jacobs and Barbara Weisberg, the show premiered on CBS on October 3, 1984, with Scott Baio starring as a college student working as a live-in babysitter. CBS canceled it after a single season of 22 episodes, ranked 57th in the ratings, and getting crushed by NBC's Highway to Heaven and ABC's The Fall Guy. By every normal measure, that should have been the final chapter. Universal spotted an opportunity in the growing trend of first-run syndication, selling new episodes of canceled shows directly to local stations and bypassing the network entirely. They retooled the concept, kept only Baio and Willie Ames from the original cast, replaced the entire family with the Powells, which brought in Nicole Eggert and Josie Davis, and launched the revived version on January 3, 1987. 4 more seasons followed, bringing the total to 126 episodes across both runs. Charles in Charge stands as the rare sitcom that got canceled by its network and then came back stronger without one. The full series streams on Tubi today. Number 5. Full House. Full House carries one of the rougher launch stories on this list. When it premiered on September 22, 1987, critics savaged it, with the LA Times calling it contrived muck and a great argument for birth control. Audiences weren't exactly rushing to watch either, as Season 1 finished 71st in the ratings, which hovers barely above cancellation territory. ABC refused to give up on it though, and what followed was a stretch of schedule shuffling that included a stint on Tuesdays and even airing it twice a week to build audience awareness. The real turning point arrived when ABC placed it directly after the established hit Perfect Strangers as part of the TGIF Friday night lineup, and that lead-in changed everything. Full House climbed into the top 30 by Season 2 and eventually became the flagship of the entire TGIF block across 8 seasons and 192 episodes. Andrea Barber, who played Kimmy Gibbler, later revealed that the cast found out about the cancellation only 3 weeks before the end of Season 8. With rising production costs and ABC's shift toward older-skewing comedies quietly ending the run, Netflix brought the nostalgia machine roaring back when it launched Fuller House in 2016, which ran for 5 seasons through 2020. Number 4. Family Matters. Family Matters began its life as a spin-off of Perfect Strangers, built around the elevator operator character Harriet Winslow, played by Jo Marie Payton. The premiere landed on September 22, 1989, with a straightforward premise centered on a middle-class black family in Chicago led by cop Carl Winslow, played by Reginald VelJohnson. Solid enough to get on the air, but not a breakout, and most of Season 1 pulled modest ratings. That all flipped when Steve Urkel walked through the door. Jaleel White appeared midway through Season 1 in an episode called Laura's First Date as a one-time guest spot. The nerdy neighbor who was never supposed to return, but the audience reaction hit so hard that Urkel became the show's center of gravity almost immediately. Family Matters ran for 9 seasons and 215 episodes after that, becoming the third longest-running live-action sitcom with a predominantly African-American cast. The Urkel effect carried a real cost, though, as the writers leaned harder into his antics with Stefan Urkel, Myrtle Urkel, and the Urkel bot. Youngest daughter Judy vanished from the show after Season 4 without any explanation whatsoever. Behind-the-scenes tensions reportedly contributed to Jo Marie Payton leaving near the end of the final season, with Harriet recast for the last stretch of episodes. When ABC let the show go, CBS picked it up alongside Step by Step in a deal reportedly worth $40 million. And Family Matters became the last scripted primetime show that debuted in the 80s to finish its original run, wrapping in July of 1998. Number 3. Night Court. Night Court arrived on January 4, 1984 as a mid-season replacement, the kind of show networks use to fill dead air while they figure out what comes next. Created by Reinhold Weege, a Barney Miller veteran, it starred Harry Anderson as an eccentric young judge running the night shift of a Manhattan criminal court, and Season 1 finished 47th in the ratings, which sat in that uncomfortable zone between safe and doomed. NBC moved it to Thursdays right after Cheers, and that single scheduling decision changed the show's entire trajectory. Season 2 jumped to number 20, and by Season 4, Night Court peaked at number 7. John Larroquette collected 4 consecutive Emmys for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy from 1985 to 1988, then pulled himself out of contention because he felt it wasn't fair to keep winning. What the show endured off-screen would have buried most sitcoms. 2 actresses who played the bailiff, Selma Diamond and Florence Hayloft, both died of lung cancer in consecutive seasons, and Marsha Warfield stepped into the role to keep the show moving. After 8 seasons, NBC planned to wrap things up, and the writers crafted what they believed would serve as a satisfying finale. But Night Court's ratings as a lead-in to the rising Seinfeld convinced NBC to order a surprise 9th season, and writer Jeff Kreisman admitted they realized immediately they were in creative trouble. Marky Post later said the cast learned about the actual final cancellation from the newspaper. A sequel series starring Melissa Rauch as Harry Stone's daughter premiered on NBC in January of 2023 with Larroquette returning, and NBC canceled the revival in May of 2025 after 3 seasons. Number 2. Married with Children. Married with Children didn't just survive. It absorbed a full-blown national boycott and emerged stronger on the other side. The show premiered on April 5, 1987 as the very first primetime series on the fledgling Fox network, created by Michael G. Moye and Ron Levitt under the working title Not the Cosbys, which tells you everything about its attitude. Fox barely had a full affiliate base at that point, and even its own executives carried doubts about the network's future. January 15, 1989, changed the show's entire story. An episode called Her Cups Runneth Over caught the attention of Terry Ricolta, a Michigan mother who organized a letter-writing campaign and convinced major sponsors, including Coca-Cola, which ironically owned the show's production company, to pull their advertising. National headlines followed, and what happened next was the opposite of what Ricolta intended. Curiosity sent viewers flooding to the show. Fox's head of programming at the time, Garth Ancier, later admitted that the boycott actually helped them because all that negative publicity introduced the show to millions of people who had never watched it before. More than 20 million viewers a week tuned in during the show's early 90s peak, and the run stretched across 11 seasons and roughly 259 episodes. One episode called I'll See You in Court was considered so hot that it sat on a shelf for 13 years before finally airing on FX in June of 2002. And when the show wrapped in 1997, the cast reportedly found out from fans and low-level employees rather than executives. An animated revival featuring the original voice cast entered development as of 2022, and all 11 seasons currently stream on Hulu, Prime Video, and Peacock. And number 1, Cheers. We open with this show, and we're closing with it, because no sitcom in history carries a better survival story. Cheers premiered on September 30th, 1982, created by James Burrows, Glenn Charles, and Les Charles. Sam Malone, played by Ted Danson, ran a Boston bar as a former Red Sox pitcher and recovering alcoholic, and critics loved the show immediately, but audiences stayed away. The debut season finished ranked 74th out of 77 programs on television, and Danson himself joked about landing dead last in the weekly ratings, despite all the critical praise. NBC sat in last place as a network at the time, and the show that had been feeding Cheers its lead-in audience, Taxi, had just been canceled by ABC. Every rational signal pointed toward pulling the plug. NBC chairman Grant Tinker saw something different, though, reportedly saying the show was so well made that the network deserved to go to jail for even considering canceling it. Brandon Tartikoff backed the renewal, and here's where the story gets strange. Reruns of Season 1 actually rated higher than the original airings, which handed NBC the data it needed to justify bringing Cheers back. Over the following decade, the show became a television institution that cracked the top 10 in 8 of its 11 seasons and reached number 1 in 1990-91. Nicholas Colasanto's death in February of 1985 could have shattered the ensemble, but a then-unknown Woody Harrelson won the replacement role, partly because he broke down crying during the audition when told that the character Coach had died. Shelley Long's departure after Season 5 brought another cast earthquake, with Kirstie Alley stepping in to fill the gap. Through all of that turnover, the show collected 117 Emmy nominations and 28 wins. On May 20th, 1993, an estimated 93 million people tuned in for the finale, making it the most-watched single television episode of the entire decade. Cheers spawned Frasier, which ran from 1993 to 2004 and came back with a revival in 2023. To this day, the show regularly appears on lists of the greatest network television programs ever produced. 74th out of 77 to the most-watched finale of a decade. If that doesn't qualify as surviving longer than anyone expected, nothing does. Conclusion. And that wraps up our 12 sitcoms from the 80s that arrived nearly dead on arrival, whether they were canceled, boycotted, tested into oblivion, or flat out ignored, and then stuck around for years beyond what anyone thought possible. What's wild is that almost every one of these shows remains out there right now, streaming, getting rebooted, or pulling in fans who weren't even born when the first episodes aired. Which one of these surprised you the most? And which 80s sitcom do you think deserved more time than it got? Drop your pick in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you in the next video.